Alright, welcome to Talkin' Investing. I'm Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today I want to do our daily Bitcoin and Bitcoin miner update, but it's going to be another special edition. I am going to go through the Bitcoin charts. I'm going to talk about the Bitcoin miners, but I want to talk year to date as well. We're only a few weeks into the year 2023, and the Bitcoin miners have posted some shockingly spectacular numbers. So if you're new to the channel, we cover Bitcoin and the miners all the time here. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Also, if everybody could please smash the like button, I would appreciate it. Lastly, if you want to become a member of the channel, you can hit the join button on the YouTube page. You should see a join button right next to the subscribe button. If you don't see it, then you're probably using an Apple device, and there will be a link in the description. Members get some members-only content. Once a week, we do a members-only live stream. On that live stream, members get to pick a company for me to do a deep dive video on that's members-only. So we're building some decent content, and we have an absolutely fantastic group of members. So you're welcome to join us. We have a lot of fun. Let's talk about Bitcoin. The first thing I want to just show you is a recap of 2022, because as we look at 2023, it's important to keep this in perspective. The Bitcoin miners are down drastically off of their highs. So even as you see the fantastic numbers in 2023, it really hasn't even hardly put a dent into the amount that these Bitcoin miners went down over the course of time. All the Bitcoin miners were down between 79% and 99%. All of them. Bitcoin miners are a leverage play on Bitcoin, so that makes sense. Bitcoin had a very bad year. Really, the market had a very bad year, and probably this was one of the worst industries in the whole market, maybe the worst. Okay, remember that chart with a lot of red? Now we got a chart with a lot of green. Remember, this is 9 days. So GREE is out in first place just in the 9 trading days this year. In the first 2 weeks of this year, GREE is up 267%. Bitfarms is up 143%. Ordinarily, that would be spectacular and mind-boggling, except GREE was up even more than that. So these are massive, massive moves, and they're not even from their lows. All these companies were actually a little bit lower in the middle of December than they were at January 1st. So off of their lows, some of these were 300 or 400% moves. You'll see Marathon's up 125%. Riot is up 78%. DigiHost up 119%. Hive up 117%. Cypher just under 100%, up 98%. So even in the middle of the pack here, we're at 86%. So HUT, and I did do a separate video on most of these companies because they've all reported their December earnings. So if you want to check that out, you can go to the channel and see any company that you like. But we do know that HUT had a lot of headwinds in the month of December and January so far, but yet still, their stock is up 86%. DMG blockchain up 79%. Riot, we talked about, up 78%. Mawson's up 74%. So Mawson is hardly even mining Bitcoin right now. So from there down, I'll let you guys look at the list. You'll see very near the bottom, in second last place, is Bitcoin, up 16% on the year this year. So if you remember, Bitcoin was the best performer in the year 2022, down 64%. These stocks are going to go up and down. They're all nano cap stocks. We'll take a look at their market cap, but when you're a $10 or $15 million stock, it is pretty easy to make 100% or 200% or 300% move. In real dollars, that's not a lot of money. You're still a nano cap stock even after a move like that. So we'll see. We hope the year gets even better, but this is one of the best charts you'll ever see. This is a 2-week chart. So for me, I'm going to ask myself, for the ones that are lagging, the ones that are only up a little bit, is there a reason for that? Do they have a bigger problem, or are they under participating and maybe due for a run? I do think there's one near the bottom of the list that is due for a very big run up, and that's CleanSpark, but right now they're only up 26% this year. Not financial advice, of course, but in my mind, when I look at this chart, what jumps out at me is that it looks to me like CleanSpark is underperforming versus its peers. This tells a little bit more of the picture. In June and July of 2022, Bitcoin had a flash crash down to about 17,500. During that flash crash, each one of these Bitcoin miners hit a new 2-year low. So from that low, this chart measures what they have done in the 8 months since then. So you see, this chart tells a little bit of a different story. There are some winners and some losers, and the important thing to note is Bitcoin is up 11% off of its lows. So the vast majority of these are still red, which means they're still lower than the price they were at when Bitcoin flash crashed down to what at that point was its 2-year low. So you can see really most of these Bitcoin miners have not had good performance over the last 7 or 8 months. From Bitfarms, which is up 3% off of its flash crash low, BitDigital's up 1%, then all the rest of these are actually in the red from their lows of last summer. So this is another area when you look at these, all these have different stories. So you've got to know your stock. You've got to do your own due diligence and research, but there's a reason these stocks are down. There's a reason Core Scientific's still down 94% from its low from last summer. So, that may look like a gigantic opportunity, but I would look closely because obviously they have filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy and that's their story. But again, this is an area where I would look at all these in the red and these that are just barely into the green. Those to me represent potential spots that could be investment opportunities. So those are the ones that I'm putting on my watch list. Take your own look at this and find a few to put on your watch list. I will say, if we take a quick look at the big board, Bitfarms was up about 12.5%, HUT was up about 18%, Hive was up about 9%, and DigiHost was actually only up less than 1%. So we will see what happens when the NASDAQ opens tomorrow, because since the equity markets closed on Friday, Bitcoin has had one of its biggest runs it's had in a long, long time. As always, there's an orange line where Bitcoin was when the market closed on its last trading day, and in this instance, that was now 3 days ago. Bitcoin was at around 19,400 the last time these miners were trading. So since then, you can see Bitcoin's up 8.5%. I mean, that is a significant run. There were days where Bitcoin was up 0.5% or 1%, and these Bitcoin miners made 10 or 20 or 30 or 50% moves in some instances. So with an 8.5% move over the weekend, if this holds until tomorrow morning's open, I would expect to see some very green numbers. So we'll see. We did take a look, and the Bitcoin miners have already potentially priced some of this in, because the run-up they've already had just in the first 9 trading days was fairly incredible. But if Bitcoin can hold, and that's just until tomorrow morning, and I'm going to say hold 21,000. If we hold 21,000, then that's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of an 8% increase in Bitcoin or more. The real question is, where do we go from here? We've now run from, we were stuck at about 16,800 for almost 2 full months, and now all of a sudden we have skyrocketed up over $21,000. And it seems to be, you can see this chart is fairly steady over the weekend. We did get down, as low as around 20,500, but we held 20,000 all weekend. We were up over 21,000 for quite a bit of time, including really all day today. I want to go to the 1-day time frame because I want to take a look at this blue line. This is very significant. You're going to see we almost touched this blue line yesterday, and here we pretty much almost basically exactly touched this just a couple hours ago. So if I zoom out to the 1-day time frame, you're going to see this same blue line is right here. Bitcoin had a very big rally going into the last few weeks of October and the beginning of November. Now, that rally ended promptly when the FTX situation hit. So in the 2 days leading up to that, Bitcoin had pulled back a little bit, and then you'll see 2 gigantic red candles on the 8th and 9th. So that was pretty much a 2-day flash crash, if you will, taking out the previous lows and getting down into the 15,500 area. But prior to that, just 1 day prior to all this FTX situation exploding, we were at this blue line right here. So you can see on November 5th, we were at around 21,478, and you can see this line today, this got within $10 or $15 of the exact same spot. So for the moment on the daily candle, it did bounce off of that, and it hasn't broken through that. So that's the next thing we need to see. Are we going to break through this line? Because this is definitely a significant line. This gets us all the way back. It makes up 100% of the ground that Bitcoin lost during the FTX situation, gets us right back to where we started, and this was more than 2 months ago. Now the question is, can we run from here? So this already has been a relief rally. If you go from the bottom on November 21st until the top today, this has been over a 38% rally. So these relief rallies tend to be between anywhere 30, 40, 45, sometimes 50%. The reason I think there may be more room left on this rally is because this 38% that we just got is really what we just gave away in a few days because of the FTX situation. So to a certain extent, this has kind of been a zero-sum game over the last 2 months. We're all the way just back to where we started. So the question is, can we rally from here? So if I zoom out to the 1 week chart on Bitcoin, you'll see that over the last week, we've had a giant green candle basically to match the red one that brought us down here. So again, we're right back to where we started, but there's a few key points that I'm looking at. A few months earlier in September, Bitcoin was somewhere around 22,800, so I have a green line here, and it's at 22,794. So I think that's the next potential point. To me, if we can get past this line, then actually, in my mind, we will be setting a higher high really since August of 2022. So that's my first price target, and we're fairly close to that. At this point, Bitcoin needs to move up about 7% to reach that price target. Then we have a much bigger green arrow right here in July up through August 15th. This was a full-blown relief rally. This represented about a 40% move to the upside in Bitcoin. That was the last big run-up that we had. So to get from where we are today back to that point, that's just under 20% from here. So if we could get to that point and take that line out, then actually we could start to consider whether or not this is a relief rally or the beginning of a bull market. Now, it's way premature to talk about that because we have two gigantic price targets to even get to before we can even think in those terms. But technically, once we're above this 25,000-ish green line right here, we will have set a higher high than we did in August after this 40% relief rally. So that would be the very first indicator that we are potentially returning to a bull market. So again, I'm not calling that, I'm not predicting that. We're a long ways away from that. All we've done right now is just get back to right where we started before FTX collapsed. So this is very up in the air. The technicals look like we're way overbought. So if I was just to look at the technicals, it looks like we're going to have a pretty decent pullback sometime over the next few days. However, I will tell you, there are some times where the technicals are just out the window. The daily RSI has been floating between 85 and 90 for several days now, and it really never even got to 70 all year last year. So, you know, we're in uncharted territory and we're on a bit of a run. So the question is, how long is this run gonna last, and how big is the pullback gonna be when it stops? So I'm still optimistic there's some legs left in this run, but we'll see what happens. By tomorrow morning when the market opens, there's oftentimes a lot of volatility just prior to or at market opening in the US. So I'm going to wait and see what happens there. If we can stay over 21,000, I think that would be a very encouraging sign. And if we could take out this first green line at around 22,700, that would be extremely bullish in my opinion. So that's what's going on with Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow when the equity market's back up and running in the US. For everybody else in the world, I hope you had a good trading day. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.